Welcome to the video where I'm going to explain my thoughts on loot boxes, surprise mechanics, and gambling in video games. Well, this round of actual discussions that started in the gaming community, it happened because of the trailer that you see right now playing on the screen, which is going to be looping right now through the whole video. And this is a trailer where, basically a slot machine appeared in the game, right? And so the whole discussion about if that loot boxes are not gambling is now, so it's kind of became pretty much it became sharp on the point because, right there, there's a slot machine. What are you talking about, all right? So, before we start talking about this, let's talk a bit about actual loot boxes. How did we arrive at this stage, and what happened? And of course, loot boxes is something that appeared when they appeared to free-to-play games, right? The MMO communities, community games. Started to go away from subscription model to the free-to-play model, and basically the developers and the guys who are supporting those games need to figure out how we're gonna continue to develop the game and continue to keep the servers running if people are playing the game for free. And of course, they turned to a mechanic that already existed before in the other section of the industry. In the tabletop gaming, there's a collectible card games where you buy packs of cards, which is a collectible, right? You don't know how many. You know how many cards there are, 5, 7, 10, so on, iterations of cards in each pack, but you don't know what cards are there. You open up each pack, you see if the card that you want is there. If not, you keep on buying, and so on and so forth, and you keep on going. So that's actually was available. The same thing with baseball cards and NHL cards, the NBA cards, same thing. All that existed before, so it's not a new kind of a mechanic. All the video game industry did is to look at that and adopted it for free-to-play games at first, and then it went to the pay-to-play games. When it adopted that in the pay-to-play games, it went to the sports games, but then it went to other games. And the mechanic was simply ideas that we need to finance a higher cost of development, especially with the free-to-play games, right? But even with paid-to-play games, the idea was that how do we keep the servers running? How do we continue to support the game, right? We can only increase the starting price so much because the price has been growing to such an extent that people are not willing to pay that price anymore. Idea of using the DLC or season passes was advanced, right? The idea that you're gonna have small piece of content added on, people will gonna pay for it, or you're gonna have a season pass that you pay for a chunk of this small downloadable contents that's all packaged together. That they're gonna come out, and then it's gonna be another season pass. We're not really popular with people, and so loot boxes came in. It was like, okay, here it is. You don't know what's inside the box. Maybe it's something that will add to the game. Generally, it was like some of the times it was cosmetic. Sometimes it's something that enhances your character. Sometimes it enhances your team, as in the case of sports games. And so that's pretty much how the loot boxes appeared. Originally, when the discussion started, I was not very much against it, because to me it was like, well, you know what, I've seen these loot boxes. I'm not really interested. I'm not going crazy buying them, right? And partially it's because I don't have this kind of a gambling interest overall, right? Because to me, gambling is very boring, because it's all game of chance, and games of chance are the games that are mostly based on chance are very boring to me, because it requires no skill, no thought process from me. Just press a button, something happens. So it's like, oh, you won or you lost. Most likely you lost, usually, because gambling, that's the odds are always against you. And so it's like, oh, well, okay. So how's that interesting? Well, it's not interesting to me. And so when I looked at that, I said, well, I'm perfectly fine with that. It seems to be I'm able to resist the urge. What's wrong with those people? You don't want to, don't play the games. Nobody's forcing you, so on. And that was pretty much my opinion in the very beginning. However, I've been listening to other opinions and people talking about it. I've been listening to a lot of it. I've actually been discussed by Jim Sterling. And while his videos are pretty much repetitive, they repeat the same points, they do sometimes come out with interesting points. And some of them were about testimonies of people who got gambling, addiction, and who actually got addicted to this mechanics in the game. You see, the thing is that happens is that the chemical release into the brain is the same as when people gamble or when they open up this loot boxes, crates, whatever you want to call them, treasure chests, doesn't matter. So when they do that, it's the same chemical release. It activates the people the same way, and they get addicted. And originally, when the loot boxes appeared, people were talking about whales. The whales were the idea that people who spend a lot of money in video games on these loot boxes, it's like, okay, and the term whales came from casinos, interestingly enough, right? It's a term that's used for the people who were high rollers in the casinos, the people who brought in lots of money to gamble with, except it turned out that in video games that's not the case. It's not the people who have huge incomes or large sums of money. It's usually actually a middle class or even lower class people who don't have that much of an income, but they are get addicted to the mechanic and they keep spending, and so they're spending out their family finances, and they're stretching them so much, and they spending out all the money on the credit cards, and there's tragic consequences to this whole story, right? Because families can't stop their loved ones from doing this. So quite clearly the whales were not exactly some rich people. And that started, getting me thinking, because I'm actually coming from economics and finance background. That's where my education is, and we have something called behavioral economics, behavioral finance. The idea is that while as people we're supposed to act rationally, we don't act rationally overall, right? That's what the behavioral economics and behavioral finance focus on. And there's ideas that most of this stuff, yes, sometimes we can stop ourselves, but also we can't stop ourselves. That's why it's kind of predictable. That's why those patterns can be seen in economics and finance, right? So this means is that, yes, there is personal responsibility, that people should be responsible, but the mechanic itself feeds on those people who can't stop themselves, and at that point it becomes a problem. Well, we had the discussions about with politicians and with the regulators, with the gambling industry regulators, and many of them pretty much ruled as saying that this is not gambling, and they pretty much technically right. There's no gambling involved. It's not like a slot machine where you put a coin in and you have a chance of that there's going to be coins coming out. In this case, you don't get that. You don't get actual money, and if you try to sell it off through third-party sites or something like that, that's actually breaking the terms of a service and so on, and that also does not work. So therefore, it's not gambling, technically speaking, even though in all the other ways it activates same type of emotions and so on in people. But something that the Inside Gaming guys said that was very interesting to me. They advanced the idea that saying, yes, well, this is not exactly gambling, right? If you go by that technical definition. But what about ratings, right? Shouldn't the ratings be higher when you have a slot machine? Because look at the violence. As soon as you have violence, it pushes rating up. As soon as you have nudity or prostitution, it pushes rating up in the video games, right? Call of Duty, GTA, right? All those games are rated M, right? They're rated M for mature, while PEGI is rated E, so for ages 3 and up, right? So how come PEGI is rating this so low? This should be rated higher. And this is a very valid point, and they're arguing, and I think that's actually where things could happen. Because, well, think about it, this video coming out right after, like not video, the trailer itself coming out right after the UK regulator said this is not gambling, right? It's literally a middle finger to everybody. It's pretty much is a 2K saying, here it is, here's the game, we put action of gambling, we're no longer disguising it at all anyway. There's a slot machine right there, you see it on the screen right now, it's right there. We put it in, you guys are gonna still love it, you're gonna guys buy it, we're still gonna make tons of money on this game, and that's how it is. It's not the first time we see this, right? GTA Online did the same thing, right? It introduced a casino in its own game right there. It's in its own a trailer where it put a casino, said, we're not going to disguise it, then the loot boxes, we're just going to put casino, people are going to love it, they're going to spend money on this, that's how it is. Again, that was a middle finger to everybody who was talking about gambling in video games. It's like, okay, there it is, right? But at least with the GTA Online, we know this is M rated, right? GTA games are M rated. This is not for kids. While with the NBA 2K20, this is 3+ game being rated. And well, people came up to PEGI and said, what the heck, what's going on? Why did you rate this? And PEGI came back with an excuse saying, well, this is not the core mechanic of the game. It's not teaching people how to gamble. Kids, that it's a kind of a mini game, and we don't consider that to be something that we should be basing a rating on, so on, so on. To me, that's a weak excuse. The reason is that usually in video games, in films and movies, it takes only one character to swear to have the rating go up, right? It takes only one scene of nudity for the rating to go up. So it doesn't take that much for the rating to be pushed up, but apparently having a slot machine does not constitute enough for the rating to be pushed up. Here's a concrete example. GTA San Andreas. Remember the hot coffee controversy? That was locked up behind the actual code, right? You could not access it unless you hacked through the code. You had to hack through the code to get to that. But as soon as that was found out, the game was rated adults only for the GTA San Andreas, that was the consequence of something that was locked up behind it, that was not accessible. Here we have, something akin to a roulette wheel, and we have a slot machine, and that's not, that's not enough to push the rating up. That to me seems to be a wrong thing to do. And this is something that we actually can push through as a video game community. We can push through the more responsible rating system. Because we can't make this mechanic illegal. We can't ban these games, right? Because EA representative before the British Gambling Commission, right? They literally said this is surprise mechanics. They said it and they pointed at the other toys. They said here there's toy stores, they use it, right? Kinder Surprise Eggs, they have it. Happy Meals and so on, like meals that we have in fast food restaurants for kids that put toy in it that kids don't know what toy it is. It's there, it exists, right? We have collectible card games. They're all there. So this mechanic is being used a lot, and that's what the EA representative was saying, that hey, we got this mechanic all over in other toys, in other games, right? Like not in video games, but the tabletop games. It's in other industries. If you're gonna attack us, you're attacking all of them, and it's a signal as to all those industries and all those companies also saying like, hey guys, if video game industry is gonna get thrown under the bus here by the gambling commissions, you guys are being thrown under the bus along with us. This is what's happening. So I don't think you're gonna be able to ban this, mechanic, ban these games. If we don't need to, we don't have to. We need to get proper rating on it. What that will do is that it will give information saying that yes, this is not for kids. This is, there's a proper disclosures existing, and that's how you actually do it in all other industries. That's how you deal with regulations and illegalities in other industries. The companies that want to assume liability for things, they push liability away. They try to move it over to consumer or so on, some kind of entity like that, down the stream. Same thing here. If PEGI NSRB gives a proper rating onto the game, and companies disclose information about the games, they can say, okay, here's the parents, we gave you information, you gave it to your kid spent all the money in your bank account on your credit card, we told you this was not for the kids, whose responsibility it is? Well, it's yours now, right? We gave you all the information. You guys were not the ones who were acting on that information, and that's how it should be. Because when I told this to one of my friends, he literally compared to back in the day when they used to sell chocolate cigarettes. And the idea, he said, back in the day, they tried to get kids accustomed to the idea of holding a cigarette in your hand. So when they grow up enough to buy a pack of cigarettes, they'll go and buy one. And now, they can smoke for real. Same thing here. We're going to get kids to gamble, not in a real fashion. We're going to pull a virtual slot machine so that eventually once they grow up enough, they can go to casino and start playing there, right? Because hey, they learned it from here. They get accustomed to it. That to me seems what's happening here. We need proper ratings. Yes, ratings are not gonna stop everybody, but at least they're gonna stop some people, or they're gonna provide some information and make people be aware of what they're looking at and what games could have. Because the rating will be telling them, hey, there's something here that you need to pay attention to. Right? Well, thank you for watching.